In my search to find a better place to live, I started my journey in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I had watched several YouTube videos singing the praises of the city as an ideal place for expats to retire to, and wanted to see if the claims were true. After living in KL for 2 weeks, I can tell you right now, this city was disappointing, and I will go over the reasons why. Most influencers mentioned the issues with the weather, but some of them downplayed it in their videos. When I first exited the airport, the heat and humidity hit me like opening a hot oven inside a sauna. If you are coming from a climate such as Florida, this may not be such a big deal as the two climates are similar. But coming from a more mild climate such as California, I found the weather to be muggy, sweltering, and very unpleasant. And this was with the sun down at 11 o'clock at night. It's even worse during the day. I think all the tall buildings block out much of the breeze that could make the heat more bearable. While I was there, it also rained at least every other day, if not every day. Sometimes I like walking around in the rain. In my hometown of Milpitas, I would go outside and enjoy the cool mist and tiny water droplets falling on my head. But the rain in KL is not cool and is often quite heavy. The rain may bring down the temperature slightly, but it also increases the humidity, which makes things worse. The one bonus of living in a big urban city is being able to get around without a car. Even though I didn't like New York the month I spent living there, I did appreciate its walkability. I could get to most places using the subway and by foot. In terms of KL, I found its walkability to be quite poor. Now don't get me wrong, the MRT in KL is very efficient and clean. The trains run on time and there are no signs of rats or smells of urine, unlike New York. Unfortunately, it does not go to enough places, requiring you to complete your journey on foot or by bus. And let me just say, the bus system here sucks. This wouldn't be such a problem if KL was more accommodating to pedestrians. However, the sidewalks are pretty dilapidated, with several of them having holes so large you could easily trip and fall if you aren't paying close attention. Oftentimes, the sidewalks will just disappear on one side of the road and continue on the other side with no crosswalks in sight, meaning you will have to jaywalk across a busy street to continue, or walk right next to passing cars. And to compound the issue, the heat and the humidity makes walking a miserable chore. The best way to get around is by using grab taxis, cars, or motorcycles, which is not ideal since the traffic can get pretty bad, especially during rush hour. One thing I heard over and over again is how good the food is in KL. This might be true for Indian or Southeast Asian foods, but there is not much of a selection in terms of Western foods. And the Chinese food is okay, but not as good as the restaurants in my hometown of Milpitas. Essentially, the food is very good for the price you pay. Many of the meals I had, which would have cost me over $10 in the US, were under $6 here, but they were by no means the best meals I ever had. Influencers like to give this perception that most of the people here speak English, and I found this to be grossly misleading. I would say that half of the people here speak decent English. 40% speak very broken English with a heavy accent to the point I can't understand them. The rest don't seem to speak English at all. Now, I don't blame the Malaysians for this. English is not their national language. I do blame the influencers, though, for pushing this false narrative. I also heard from many influencers that Malaysians are extremely friendly. I found the people in KL to be friendly, but no friendlier than the people in other big cities such as Taipei or the people in the Bay Area where I live. The people in KL are definitely friendlier than those I met in New York, but I wouldn't say they are especially friendly. Most keep to themselves, go about their day, and want to be left alone. I did not get the feeling of a connected, neighborly community. Influencers like to stress the diversity of Malaysia, with 60% being Malay, 20% being Chinese, and 6% being Indian. And although this is more diverse than places like Taipei, it is still significantly lacking compared to the US. While in KL, I saw very few white people, barely any black people, and I don't think I saw one Hispanic. So even though Malaysia might be diverse in comparison to some other countries, it does not compare to certain parts of the US that I'm familiar with. Because it is so hot in KL, I feel the mall culture is very big here. People take advantage of the free AC rather than staying at home and paying for it. For better or for worse, the malls in KL remind me a lot of American malls. It is important to note that although most things cost less in Malaysia, global brands such as Ray-Ban, Lego, or Nike cost the same here or even more than the US. Influencers like to point out that Malaysia is not a Muslim country. Only the majority is Muslim. Now this is true, but the Muslim religion is more palpable than religions in other countries. For example, in the US, most people are Christians, but walking in the streets, I wouldn't know since Christians dress like everyone else. In KL, many of the women wear hijabs and some even wear niqabs, so the religion is very visible. In addition, Muslim mosques like to broadcast their prayers over loudspeakers in the city. I remember my first day in KL. I was woken up at 5:45 in the morning by some kind of chanting. Later, I would learn this was a prayer done 5 times a day as a routine ritual. Another thing influencers love raving about are the sights in KL. I found them to be good, but not spectacular. The Petronas Towers are nice to look at. Definitely visit the Batu Caves if you're in town, but the rest is just okay. For example, I watched a couple gush about the Thien Hun Temple on YouTube. Was it nice? Yes. But when I lived in Los Angeles, I used to see my friend in Hacienda Heights and visit the Silai Temple, which I think is much more impressive. Also, everyone said to visit Jalan Alor Street for the street food. Again, it was fine, but having been to the Taipei night markets before, it was a bit of a letdown. So whether you should see the sights or not really depends on your previous experiences. And just to show you I'm not being biased against KL, I went to Hualien once in Taiwan because people told me how beautiful that was. And it was beautiful, but nothing in comparison to Yosemite National Park. Overall, I would say Kuala Lumpur suffers from the same things most big cities suffer from. It's very crowded, there is a garbage and graffiti problem, traffic is congested, homeless people lie around the streets, and certain places just smell. There are many good points to KL too though. The infrastructure is pretty decent. The malls are very well maintained. The city feels relatively safe even at night. There are multiple options for food, and the biggest, most important benefit, it is much more affordable than the US, especially when it comes to medical care. A dental cleaning here costs around $35 compared to $165 in the States. I stayed in a hotel for $20 a night that would have cost me close to $60 in America. A Grab taxi ride that would easily cost $65 from the airport only costs $20. So yes, the affordability is off the charts compared to some Western cities. My feeling is that KL can be a good city to retire to depending on what you are looking for. If you don't mind hot and humid weather, if you like the hustle and bustle of a big city, if you don't mind taking taxis everywhere or driving around in a car or motorbike, if you don't mind the prevalent Muslim presence, if your number one priority is affordability with modern amenities, then Kuala Lumpur can be a viable option. For me, however, this city is an easy pass. I find it too crowded and congested, there's too much garbage and graffiti for my taste, and as far as religion goes, I feel you should be able to practice whatever you want. Coming from America, I believe that is an important freedom. But when you wake everybody up at 5:45 in the morning, broadcasting prayers over loudspeakers, I find that to be too intrusive. Finally, and this is the biggest deal breaker, I think KL is just too hot and humid. I can't stress this enough. I like taking leisurely walks or just hanging out outside on occasion. And during my time in KL, I can't remember one single time I enjoyed being outside. So I hope this video has been helpful. For me personally, my search will go on. The next stop is Ipoh.